I've seen a lot of stats coming out that suggest that there could be a mass exodus from the 2-year agreements, the 2-year contracts for realtors, putting anywhere between 20 and 40% exodus. Like, one of the distractions in real estate is that desire to be in luxury, the desire to be the famous guy on the news. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Remington Ramsey, and we've experienced a lot of success in this last couple months of the Real Producers podcast. We're officially in the top 5% of all podcasts globally, thanks to you guys. And what I'll ask is that if you get any good nuggets, or you just absolutely love this episode, you think of one person that you can send it to. And we've got a good one lined up for you today. Anthony Lamacchia from the Northeast, the founder of one of the largest and fastest growing brokerages in the Northeast, also launching in Florida, $2.5 billion this year. Anthony, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks very much for having me, Remington, and congrats on having such a successful podcast. That's amazing.
Yeah, well, it's because of guests like you, and I'm excited to jump in. Really, where I wanted to start is your involvement with the debate on the realtor side of the lawsuits. Now, we are months into the verdict. We're months into all the things that have happened since then. But I am curious, this late in the game, what are the questions that you're still seeing out there from the consumers as it pertains to the lawsuits?
Well, what's funny is consumers really aren't asking questions, but realtors still are. You know, a lot of realtors seem frustrated that there was a settlement, and now the settlement just got approved, a week or a few weeks ago. But it is what it is. You know, I've not been shy about my opinions about the fact that I think the defendants could have fought a lot harder and a lot more ruthlessly, like the plaintiffs' attorneys did. But it is what it is. The settlement's done. The new way of doing business is here. Truthfully, I don't think anyone is safer. I don't think it's any better. But NAR negotiated the best deal that they could under the very difficult set of circumstances with a wrongful verdict. And we're just still doing business just fine. I mean, this new way of doing business, we've been doing it since August. We've sold thousands of homes since August. We're getting paid all the time. And I actually think when I look out over the horizon, average commissions are going to go up because of this lawsuit. So,
yeah, you've gone on record saying that many times. What is it about the verdict, or what is it about what's happened since that makes you think that? What's the leading cause of commissions going up?
Well, let me tell you something, Remington. One thing I will admit, maybe it's some good that comes out of this, which I hate to admit, but too many realtors were just settling when they were representing a buyer. They were often just settling for whatever the listing agent and or seller was offering them for the cooperating brokerage compensation fee. Well, now that they're not doing that and everyone sort of got out of the habit of doing that, and now that everyone is having to negotiate it within the transaction, negotiations were already happening, but now they're happening as the transaction's coming together. Well, now that's happening and realtors are more trained on how to have these conversations and the forms are better and all that, I'm seeing evidence that tells me commissions are going to go up. And I think that will likely be the case over the next couple of years. And the industry disruptors will be disappointed once again that they have not destroyed organized real estate, which is a good thing for consumers. And I'm happy about that. All those disruptors can go to hell.
Well, you say that it's a positive thing for the industry, but still a wrongful verdict. How does that work? What was wrongful about it?
Well, I don't really think that much of it is positive. I think that it has decreased transparency. You know, no longer being able to post compensation in the MLSs, that's not better for consumers. That's less consumer friendly. The one little part, because I was just talking about it, that perhaps I see an improvement on is many more realtors are coming to training. Many more realtors were concerned about how they were going to go negotiating for their fee when representing a buyer within the transaction. So if there was a gun to my head and they said, tell me one part of this that maybe there was a positive, it would be that. But it is what it is. You know, I think me complaining about it is getting to be old news, and we just need to own it and move on. And that's what we're doing. And that's what the industry is doing as a whole. Our great president of the National Association of Realtors, when this first started, he said, listen, realtors are problem solvers. They'll figure out how to solve this. And that has happened. And it's a wonderful thing to see.
So then what are we supposed to focus on now here in the first part of the year? Where would you put your attention? I've seen a lot of stats coming out that suggest that there could be a mass exodus from the 2-year agreements, the 2-year contracts for realtors, putting anywhere between 20 and 40% exodus. Those numbers seem kind of high, but what do you think will happen?
There will not be 40%. Just like in every other market downfall for the last 100 years, there's always a decrease in realtor membership. And we are seeing that. We're seeing it in our company. We're seeing it in other companies. A lot of people that get frustrated, they try another brokerage, then they get out of the business. So we are likely going to see it, I would say, if I had to guess, a 20% or a 10% decrease in the amount of realtors. But let me tell you something, Remington, we're still seeing droves of people getting in the business. So I don't know if statistically it will be very visible on how many people actually leave the business, because there's new people coming in all the time.
You have the largest trade organization in the world is that of realtors. Have you noticed that in the Northeast there's one industry where they seem to be coming from more than others with the last 10 years of the economy and AI and tech and anything like this? Are you seeing that realtors are entering from a specific industry?
I remember during COVID, I saw a lot of waitresses, waiters, people from the entertainment business, bartenders, influx into the business. I also remember seeing nurses that were getting out of it. So I think that was a direct reflection of COVID. Now, I would say all walks of life, they come from everywhere.
We've noticed, I personally, and this might just be my echo chamber, but I've seen a lot of teachers, not only teachers getting out of the, teaching and getting into real estate, but actually being really good at it, because, our platform is interviewing the top realtors, and a lot of the realtors that I've interviewed this year came from teaching in the past. Have you seen a lot of teachers come into your brokerage?
Definitely. I would say that that's one that I missed. So I agree with you that there's a higher percentage of teachers.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this and you're like, hey, I know a teacher, send the podcast to them. There's your cheat code for the day. Anthony, you've become super mega successful over the course of your real estate career. We often ask, and you've been featured in multiple real producers magazines because you're in multiple different markets. And the stories, typically what we focus on is how that success happens. Why do you think there's going to be, let's say there is a 10 to 20% exodus? What's the difference between the realtors who are leaving the industry because that either they think it's not for them or they can't hack it or whatever the reason is, and the realtors who are actually watching the market be at an all-time low and they're actually thriving? What's the difference between those realtors?
Well, many times it's not just them. It's the company they join, the company that they are a part of. When you're a new realtor, if you're not working with an organization or a team or a company or something that is providing you with some leads, some opportunity to get at-bats and training, then you're likely going to fail in most cases, particularly in this market. And I do know there's a lot of people that get into this business, they choose the wrong companies, and they end up failing out of it, and they live forever blaming the real estate business, but not realizing they were in the wrong place.
And you would argue that they might find success if they were in a different culture?
Yeah, in some cases. And don't get me wrong, we have very sought after training that's very effective, and we have people that don't make it here. So it happens.
What would you say your brand is for your specific brokerage? Are you guys focused on any one particular thing, whether it's luxury or tech or?
We are right in the middle. Our average sale price tends to be in line with the average sale prices in the markets that we serve. So we're not a luxury brand, but we do have a lot of luxury sales, $1 million+ sales every week, every day, really, actually. But we're more, where most of the consumers are, and that's on purpose. As far as what our brand is, we're known as a company that's very bold with marketing, a company that's very bold with training, and those kinds of things result in more business. I mean, I just got out of a meeting for something I'm starting this week here, which is a 2-minute segment on the news every single week talking about the real estate market.
What did you focus on today when you did that?
No, I didn't do the segment yet, but we were game planning, and we're talking about how at this time of year, inventory is at its lowest. So buyers are back to competing, sellers are back to kind of ruling the roost because there's less to choose from. And the buyers that didn't buy a home in the fall wish they did. Fall's the better time to buy, but unfortunately, not as many buy then.
What's interesting about segments like that is it's educating everybody, including those in the industry, but also those outside of the industry. I know, if you've got houses up for sale and you're thinking, hey, should I pull it off for, we're both in markets that have experienced snow and probably not the same things you're experiencing in your Florida market. But if you start doing segments that encourage people to know more about real estate, an educated buyer or seller, really, rising tides. So do you feel like that when you're actually on those news segments, are you focusing from the real estate side of things, or are you really trying to educate the buyer and seller?
Well, when I'm on the news, the larger audience is obviously the typical, home buyer, home seller, homeowner. I've actually done over 250 live news interviews in my career on ABC, NBC, Fox, CBS, you name it. And those are very consumer driven. And, Remington, just what you're doing here is exactly why I end up in the news. When you educate, you attract. Your podcast didn't get to top 5 percentile in the nation because you are having bad guests on. When you have people on that educate and that share, you're bound to attract more people. And that's what I do with the public. Since 2011, when I had a 1-person marketing team in those days, we put out monthly housing reports in all the markets that we're in. So we took that data that's in the MLSs that most realtors never bother to go look at, and we started churning reports out on it all the time and teaching our realtors how to use it, teaching them how to get that data and show it to a client. Don't just tell a client, show them. Explain to them, this is how this works, this is how that works, and it's worked out quite well.
Yeah, I asked you earlier about essentially what is success and how to achieve it, and I feel like one of the distractions in real estate is that desire to be in luxury, the desire to be the famous guy on the news, like Anthony Lamacchia, thousands of Twitter followers and Instagram followers, and I imagine you leading from the front, you have to explain that to a lot of people coming in when you're training new people who are not going to be on Fox late at night to sell houses. How do you steer their focus towards the things that actually work? What are those things in your training?
Well, I'm glad you pointed all that out, and it's smart of you to do that, because some people get these delusional thoughts like I was born with a silver spoon and I just ended up on the news. No, I started as a realtor at RE/MAX. I busted my ass. I went through the grind. I grew up in the business, and not grew up like from a young age. 23 years old, got into my own and grew up in my career in the business and built those contacts by putting out content, putting out information, staying in touch with the right people, shaking the right hands, etc. And some people think that they're just going to get in and there's some freaking magic bullet, some fast track. I mean, look at you, right? You're a young guy. People look at you, look at him. He's got this magazine company. Lucky him. Lucky bullshit. I don't even know you, and I know you busted your ass because you wouldn't be where you are if you didn't. But nobody, most people don't talk about the early days unless they're interviewed on it. They don't talk about the struggles, the listing appointments I went on that I didn't get, the buyers that I didn't get, the times I fell flat in my face, couldn't get offers accepted, etc. They don't talk about that. They only talk about the good. And everyone's got to go through that. The real estate god is going to punish everybody that gets in this business for some period of time, and you've got to break through that.
So I got a 2-part question on that note. What was the biggest obstacle before you hit, I don't even know what the number is. I don't think it really matters the number. In your first couple of years, what was your greatest obstacle to finding success in real estate?
I had to find an advertising medium that could bring me a mass amount of leads. And it took me till about a little more than 2 years after getting licensed that I found something that worked, which was a guaranteed sale program. And the reason I found it is I went to a conference in Palm Desert, California that was being run by Craig Proctor, and I met a gentleman by the name of Jeff Willems. He's at EXP now, and his beautiful, wonderful and beautiful wife, Marcy, and met them, learned how they were doing television advertising, and started doing it. And I was saying, Remington, I was 25 years old on TV saying, if I don't sell your home in 70 days, I will buy it. And homes were not selling. Homes were not selling at all. And I got droves of calls, droves of leads, had to buy a couple of homes, but I listed at first hundreds and then thousands of homes from it and brought in millions of dollars in commission from it. And that really was what took off my career. But it took me a couple of years to find the right thing. If you did that now, it wouldn't be successful. There's not enough homes for sale.
What is it now? Because a lot of times that's exactly what happens. They'll have someone on the show. They'll tell me how they got there, what the stories from the beginning. But a lot of times that can't be duplicated because of the times or the mediums or the tech. So now, and this isn't so much for the realtor and what they're dealing with, because I think they have the same similar things. You have more money, more problems. And you're doing about 2.5 billion, and you've got all these people that are looking up to you. What is in this moment, Anthony Lamacchia's biggest obstacle for growth?
Well, on the positive side, the number one way that we're growing is by way of acquisitions. We've acquired 10 companies in the last 18 months, and we have more lined up this month and in the months to come. So that's a good thing. The obstacle is finding the right deals. Back in the early days of acquisitions, I would just try to close any deal. Then I learned the hard way, okay, there's certain kinds of companies, certain types of agents in the business, and you got to find the right ones. And that's what I did. And that's what I do. But my point is, no matter what market I'm in, I always find a way to grow the company. Always. You have to find a way to grow, because when you grow your revenue, you grow your scale, all your other problems get solved. And until you do that, you'll likely have problems if you're not growing.
Can we talk about the 10 companies that you just acquired? If the deals aren't done yet, you don't have to tell me those, but the ones that you have recently acquired, I think that's pretty fascinating for someone who's following in your footsteps to know the way you think and the makeup of your portfolio.
Yeah, I mean, so far it's been a lot of smaller deals, 10 agents to 40 agents type size companies. Some of them do as much as $130 million in sales volume a year. Now we're really putting our focus on bringing in larger companies, but there are companies that work better than others. We seem to do quite well with the companies that have been around 30 to 50 years. But, they got a little tired, they got a little lazy, they got a little older, and they didn't work as hard. And when we get in there with their brand name in that market, and then we put it together with our brand name, and we kind of reinvigorate the office, bring new energy into the office, we seem to take it off quite well, and better than we would if we just opened in that market on our own. Because there is something to be said about that corner, that company on the, Joe Smith Real Estate on the corner of Main Street that's been there for 50 years. We come in and work with them. All the consumers around, they know of us from television and billboards. They know of them as the local company. You put the two together, the consumers come in faster and the realtors come in faster. That seems to be working quite well. The younger companies that aren't around as long, those deals, they're a little tougher to close. They're a little tougher to keep the agents on board. The agents don't have as much long-term loyalty with the existing owner. So I seem to have found a niche in the company's 30 to 50 years in business.
Are you changing their name to fit your name, or are you letting them keep their name? What do you do there?
No, we put the two names together in various advertisements for a series of months, and then we usually sunset the other name. There's a couple of companies we're going to keep the name for probably a year or two, but at some point that'll end and they'll all be Lamacchia Realty.
So you find there's a certain number of agents that is kind of the sweet spot. Have you ever leveraged your business, your real estate business, with other businesses outside the specific brokerage industry, with maybe still within real estate, but on the vendor side?
Well, yeah, we sell training to other companies and other agents all across North America. We have customers from Remax, EXP, KW, Coldwell Banker, and then a whole swath of privately held brokerages.
How do you assign a number of hours that you dedicate to all the different buckets that you're trying to give time to?
Well, with the training that we sell, they're in an online training center. those trainings are already pre-recorded. It's the same training that our agents see here at the company. So that's pretty plug and play. With the coaching, I don't personally coach anyone. I don't have the patience for it. And I don't have the patience for people. So I don't do that. I'm a little bit, if they're in my company, I have more patience. If they're out of the company, I get aggravated when they don't listen to what I say, or they say, "Oh, I'm going to look into it after the first of the year." That's like saying I'm going to lose weight after the first of the year. Anybody that says that, they're full of shit. They're not going to lose weight. They're not going to do it because they don't have urgency. So, but as far as my time goes, the vast majority of my time is spent on growth, recruiting, and recruiting related activities.
All right, I love it. So I want to get back to this one particular thing. You talked about you debated Michael Ketchmark before the lawsuits, and you.
No, but you meant to say before the settlement.
Sorry, before the settlement. So this is while the lawsuits are going on.
Yeah, well, the verdict was in though. So October 31st, Halloween, funny enough, of 2023, the verdict came in wrong, in my opinion, guilty against the defendants. I was not a defendant. I have not been a defendant in any of these cases. The reason I started speaking out with my videos is I was pissed off at seeing Ketchmark on the news talking badly about our industry. So I started doing videos on my YouTube channel, Crushing in Real Estate. They started going so viral that Ketchmark himself called me and said that his brother-in-law played my latest video at the Thanksgiving table the day before. And that was Thanksgiving 2023. Then in January of 24, I debated him on a Housing Wire live webinar. And, we had it out. We had some arguments.
You said there was like 50,000 people on that.
Yeah, no one really knows how many. It's estimated that it was something like that because so many offices across the country had watch parties. And, but I mean, I know in my company, 500 people were watching. I'm not going to lie, I was a little nervous that day. But, and I don't get nervous easy at all. But hey, I said my piece, he said his, and, it did not have the impact that I hoped. I had hoped the mainstream media would pick it up and talk about some of the things that were a little bit out of whack with the trial, and they didn't do that. But I certainly educated the whole industry a lot on some of the things that didn't go the way they should have in that courtroom. And I think there were benefits to that. There were certainly benefits to me, speaking frankly. I mean, I've been in every real estate media you can think of for almost every week for the entire year. And, everyone seeks my opinions on it, just like you're doing. But it frustrates me that that our industry got into that point. And I hope it doesn't happen again. And if it does, I'll take an even larger role next time, especially if I was sued. I told Ketchmark, I said, I will be a tyrant of a defendant if you sue me. I will torment you and your plaintiffs. And he giggled and said, that's clear. And you know what? I actually do respect the guy. He's a tremendous attorney. But I wish he was on our side, I'll tell you that. My uncle was in World War II. My uncle used to tell me, I hated those Germans when I was fighting against them, but I used to look across the field and think, I wish they were on our side. I was saying that to myself that day that I was arguing with him.
That's interesting because I haven't heard that take. Everyone, obviously there's a lot of opinions formed with not as much information as what you have. So for you to say that, that's the first time I'm hearing that.
Hearing what?
Hearing that he's an impressive guy and that you would want him on your team. I think most people are.
Let me say this. When I say he's an impressive attorney, and I don't know him enough to say impressive guy, but the guy did his job. He went in and executed the plan. He owned the media. There's very few people that can speak substantively in a courtroom and then walk out of the courtroom and talk to the media every night live on CNBC and impact the public. And he did that. And our side was stupid to not be doing or not rebuttaling that. And that's why I started doing it myself. Unfortunately, other than a couple mentions in the Wall Street Journal, I wasn't able to actually catch fire in those media channels because I wasn't an actual defendant. If I was a defendant, I would have ended up on national news, and then there would have been like Trump versus Biden. But it never happened because I wasn't a defendant. So I have to give credit where it's due. The guy executed his job. Do I think that some dirty things were done? And do I think that, the courtroom was biased in his favor? Yeah, I do. But if it was biased in his favor, that's also because of his work. So it shows that to some extent, the guy knows what he's doing.
You feel like this is what you were born to do, be an advocate, be a spokesperson? Do you feel like it doesn't matter if it was real estate or the next thing, whatever you ended up doing, this is the kind of presence you would have?
I was raised by my grandparents, and my grandmother used to say, Anthony, you got an answer for everything. And I think in this instance, my answer for everything was put to good use.
Yeah. What's that? How has your why evolved over the years? How has your why changed over the years that you've been in real estate?
Well, I have 4 children, and I obviously want to give them, I want to get them set up for the best life they can have. And, they're growing up a lot different than I did, and different than my wife did. My wife had it hard as a kid. She was paying her family's utility bills when she was a teenager. So we're determined to do that. I'm determined to do that. And I work very hard to take care of them, take care of the family, the extended family. And my why is I want to leave the world better than when I got here, and the real estate world and my family and, everyone else better than when I got here. I feel my grandparents did that. They did that for me. My dad has had a bit of a bumpy life, but he's managed to be a very good parent and be very good to me. And I want to make sure I do the same for my children.
I've got a couple follow-ups to end the show. I usually start the show, Anthony, with what do you love selling? What do you love about selling real estate in your city? And you're in Greater Boston, yes?
Yes.
So you're in Greater Boston. Since I forgot that question, but I am curious because I just got back from Boston. I was at NAR and had some amazing clam chowder. Was not impressed with my particular lobster roll. I was really jacked about the lobster roll, so I'm hoping it was just that one. But what do you love about selling in Boston?
Well, I love the business as a whole. I mean, we're involved in the biggest transaction of most people's lives. Most people, their greatest asset is their home. And, the real estate industry is 25% of GDP. What do I love about selling in Boston and Greater Boston and New England? It's a unique area of the country. And it's the American dream is alive and well here very much. And prices are high, but people are determined to get in on it. People do get in on it, and it's a great thing to see.
What's the one thing you can leave with us? I always like to leave with hope because I believe there is hope, and hope has changed over the years within real estate. It looks very different today than it did 10 years ago, but you're so well connected and plugged in and at the forefront of the news cycle. I'm just curious from Anthony Lamacchia's perspective, what we should, what our hope should be in 2025.
Well, I can talk 2025 and beyond. In 2025, you're going to start to see the recovery come together. I think you're going to see interest rates come down, and things will come back. The second part of this decade, 26 to 30, you're going to see the biggest real estate boom and economic boom anybody's ever seen, the world has ever seen. There's no question in my mind. And the beautiful thing is, despite all the bad talk out there about real estate and realtors and all that bullshit that's been in the media, buyers and sellers haven't blinked an eye on hiring a realtor. Nothing has changed with our lead flow. Nothing has changed with people wanting to hire realtors. Literally nothing. So the realtors are going nowhere. The disruptors that are out there to take realtors down and make it so that there's no realtors to represent buyers and make it not worth it. They're all going to fail as they deserve to fail. And you're going to see some really impressive years in the real estate industry in the years to come.
He says it like it is. Anthony Lamacchia. You can find him on Instagram at AJ Lamacchia. Find him on all the socials. Thank you for being on the show, Anthony.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. And once again, congratulations on your business. You guys have been good to me, but good to many. And I've read many articles. I've read many things. I follow the real producers in a few different cities. And I'm fortunate that I got to be a part of this podcast and in the magazine a bunch of times.
Well, we appreciate your support. And he's right. If you want to find out more about us, go to realproducersmag.com. And if you want to influence who is on the show or what we talk about, email us at podcast@realproducersmag.com. And do one thing for me. Send this show to one person so we get to 4 and even 3% at the top globally. We'll see you next time.